Hello there, my name is Sixo, but more on that later because we've got something rather exciting today, and that is the Transformers 40th Anniversary Expo TLEX Starscream Super Mode. Say that 5 times fast. And yes, if you grew up in Japan, then this was of course Starscream in his souped up Powerlinx form, but if you grew up in the West, there's a fair chance that you knew the original toy as Armada Thundercracker, even though it was Starscream in his Powerlinx form in the show, so a bit confusing, but it is what it is. Anyway, I've been looking forward to this one. I have handled the original legacy version of this toy, the red one, in the pub at least, so that was something, but we'll try and make a bit more of a concerted effort to assess it properly today. And this review is brought to you by TF Source, so you'll find a link to their site in the description below, and you can go ahead and check them out for all your Transformers needs. Gotta take a moment to shout out this packaging though, because this is gorgeous. Honestly, really evocative of the original release, which I do have, and I've got the box somewhere, but can't find it right now, sadly. Let's just say that you could honestly mistake these one for one, right? Like you could actually think this was the vintage version. It's so close. And I just think the front of that box is so eye-catching that, I don't know, if you saw that on a toy shelf somewhere as a kid, you'd just have to have it, wouldn't you? It's just brilliant. Needless to say, Takara Tomy give good box, but then they also give good toy, so I don't think we should waste any more time in checking this guy out today. Gotta say, right at the box, that blue, that's giving me the vibes I was looking for. Mustn't forget all his little swords and bits and bobs as well, including a very welcome baggie of rather hot pink blast effect pieces. Before we get to all that though, there's the vehicle mode to talk about, and as I say, this thing is so striking in hand. Love that blue, the red highlights mixed with it so well, the orange, everything. It's just an immediate visual treat. Paint looks nice and sharp around here. Absolutely love the kind of saturated orange they got going on, and the little molded detail as well. Some nicely applied and crisp silver on the inside just here. Same goes for these red bits on the wings, nice and thickly applied, and you've got a little Decepticon logo just there as well. Unfortunately though, all of this is kind of marred by one fairly significant problem that I've noticed straight away, and that is jet droop. Yes, unfortunately that nose cone does not really want to stay up. Like it will just about hang with a little bit of a push, but all too often it just wants to droop down, and that is very irritating and not really the kind of QC I would have expected for a release like this. Unfortunately, it's a pinned piece just here, so there's no screw to tighten or anything like that to kind of give it a little bit more stability, so a bit of a poor show from Takara. I'll see if I can fix it, but it's annoying. I will say that after fiddling with it just briefly, and particularly with this little panel just there, kind of pushing that in from the underside, it kind of locks it into place a little bit better, so still not completely stable and certainly not as tight as I would like, but at least it's holding for now. Now that has taken the sheen off a little bit, but I still can't deny I think this jet mode is beautiful and actually kind of maybe looks like the best of all of these Starscream toys that I've seen from over the years. Like I love the original, but this is just really good in terms of how cohesive it is, honestly. And that might sound a little bit sacrilegious to some, and I don't know, it is up against stiff competition from the original because I have big love for this thing, right? Like the presentation of it is top tier. It's from that era of toys where like paint budgets were just plentiful seemingly, and like the plastic was so thick and chunky and just brilliant stuff, honestly. But the new one does kind of give it a run for its money, and there are some advantages as well, such as how tidy the robot mode arms are. Like look, I love this original thing, right? Love it, love it, love it, but there's no mistaking that's a pair of robot mode arms, right? And you know, there obviously is a bit of that on this new version, but I don't know, it's just a little bit more truncated and kind of looks the better for it. Similarly, when you look at the underside of the original, you can kind of see that this is a pair of legs folded up. I mean, those are very obviously feet. Whereas, you know, this new version does kind of go to some lengths to try and disguise that a little bit. Like it looks fairly cohesive back here, as I say. It's, yes, it's good. Don't get me wrong though, nothing could ever really take away the crown from the original for me, because it's just an absolute all-timer. And I've always loved that kind of moody blue that they've got going on with the classic version. Although this new, much more vibrant colour is really something I can get on board with as well. So what can I say? Two cakes. Now, this being a Transformers jet mode, inevitably you need something to peg in under the wings, and in this case it may as well be swords. Bit random, I know, but just go with me on this because it does actually kind of work, I guess. I mean, we'll explain the significance of the swords when we get to the robot mode, but suffice it to say, for now at least, it actually doesn't look half as stupid as you think it might, having a pair of honking great big swords hanging out from under his wings. I can actually kind of get on board with this. I mean, at the end of the day, this is a vehicle mode that has the robot mode head situated fairly keenly right in the middle there, so you can say hello at any point. Sorry, just got to adjust his nose cone again. That's not annoying at all. Now, the other little bit of play value here are these missile launchers, which on the original were spring-loaded and activated by use of a minicon, but of course there's no minicon here because that sort of thing is not allowed, so we're just going to flip them out like so instead. You have to do it manually, and that's cool, you know, it kind of gives the desired effect and everything, and yeah, it looks pretty good. So a bit of a shame about the lack of spring activation or whatever, but nah, I can live with that. Besides, it's slightly salvaged by the addition of the blast effect pieces, which can just be sort of pegged in on the end there, and they do look kind of cool. I mean, if you use all of them, all 3 pieces on either side, it sort of makes it hard to imagine how he's going to see out of there, but still. I mean, come on, how do you see where you're going when you look like that, right? But still, you don't actually have to use all 3 bits on either side if you don't want to, and besides, it's just a bit of fun, isn't it? And I do think the blast effect pieces look super cool in that pink. It's just an absolutely wonderful colour on Transformers, that kind of thing, and it works really well here. So yeah, pretty fun vehicle mode overall. Rather annoying about that nose cone droop, but I'll see if I can fix it somehow. But anyway, here you can see him with the other Unicron Trilogy Starscream that we've had as part of Legacy recently. This is the Cybertron version, and this is really fun to see. I do kind of wonder if they'll do an Energon one as well, but certainly these 2 designs are the kind of most fan favourite of the 3, so perhaps not. Now, to get him into robot mode, first we want to fold these arms out, same on this side as well, and then we want to go ahead and flip out those hands from in there, just fold that back up. Always nice to get little panels covering those fists, isn't it? I just kind of appreciate it when they do that. And then if we come around to the rear, there's actually something pretty clever with this bit, because you want to kind of move this little section out the way, and then that enables you to fold the whole leg out like so. At which point you can flip the foot down, and then this piece folds back in like a little leg cover, so that's pretty swish. And there is then a little heel to pop out the bottom for a bit of stability. And then of course we've got a bit of a similar process over here. You might want to just kind of fold that bit forward slightly, which kind of enables you to get that foot out. Is a little bit tight, but just kind of slide that out like so, and then you can fold that piece in. And then similar story on that foot, just fold that forward and then flip the heel out. The heels are very stiff, by the way, but they will come with a bit of effort. Then we want to do all of the main body. Now the first thing is to kind of get the head up and out the way like so just kind of pull it up. Then it's time to collapse the main body. So first thing, you want to bring this bit up like so, and then bring the nose cone down, and that actually, if you get it right anyway, will just tab nicely into place. And then you can just fold in these little side fins slightly. Last but not least, you just fold the wings forward, and then they can be orientated however you want. Same on this side, just fold it forward, fold it back if you wish. And finally, you can just fold this whole assembly down onto his back, which is really rather neat. And then we're done. And honestly, it's quite a fun process. Like, it's very refined from the kind of original version. There's a couple of little extra steps in there that actually make all the difference in terms of how the robot mode cleans up, so I'm a big fan of that. You know, just stuff like the way the backpack folds down, it's such a simple step. Like in the year 2025, I don't think we can really consider that revolutionary, but it does mean that versus the original, he takes up a lot less shelf space, right? Like the original is a real space hogger, and this guy looks very tidy by comparison. In fact, it's a very pleasing result overall. The colours look amazing. Really love the yellow again, just right in the middle of that chest. It looks fantastic. The red is super vibrant. The blue looks brilliant. The pink face is on point. It's a generally very nicely presented toy. Little bit of shine as well in the eyes, which is nice, kind of gives them a little bit of character. I do have a small grumble though, because my copy has a paint chip on the nose, which is so frustrating. Honestly, it really takes me out of admiring stuff like this. So again, I may have to see if I can fix that slightly. It's certainly far from ideal, which is a real shame considering how good the head sculpt actually is. It's a small but very palpable nitpick, but fortunately everything else here is looking on point, as you would expect. And again, I think it's remarkable just how clean that robot mode actually is, considering the inherent design at play. I mean, look, I won't hear any bad words about this original toy, right? Like, I love it far too much for that, but honestly, you see what I'm talking about here, right? Like, that just takes up so much room on a shelf. I mean, even silly things like being able to position the wings back and forth is such a small touch. Like, it really shouldn't be that big a deal, but it's definitely appreciated here. In fact, the articulation and posing is very good overall. I mean, the head will move quite freely from side to side and can look up and down a little bit as well. Arms are really good. I mean, they'll fold all the way up and out to the side. They will go all the way up and over as well. You've got a bit of bicep rotation in there. You've got a double jointed elbow, which is really appreciated, although nothing at the hands. There is technically a waist swivel, although of course it's impeded by this honking great big nose cone just there, but you can actually get a little bit of something going on. And then as far as the legs go, I mean, those hips go all the way up those hips, so that's really, really good. And then very stiff knee joints, which will come past 90 degrees, so really nice there again. And of course you get a bit of ankle tilt and foot movement going on, all of which means that really poses like a charm. Despite the impeded waist swivel and whatever else, there's enough going on here to keep you busy and having lots of fun in the process. Now, in terms of other gimmicks, of course you've got those two blasters again, which will now go up onto his shoulders in a very sort of slick motion like so. Now, what is really nice here is you've got this little tail section, which is actually a separate piece, and that will fold back down onto his back. So that's really tidy. And it means that if you do want to have the launchers kind of ready with these little sections just here, actually on his shoulders, then you can, just like the original toy. And then of course it's just a matter of flipping them over like so. No minicon here, so no spring-loaded activation, but still, that's simple enough. And then of course, you can get your blast effect pieces on, can't you? That just looks awesome. Absolutely awesome. Then you've got his other accessories, such as that hot pink sword, which just goes into his fist like so, and that looks really, really cool. Love the hot pink colour going on here. Absolutely adds something to the overall aesthetic. It is kind of a weird one though, because on the original toy, the corresponding sword was actually made from one of his wings, and you can still kind of see that in the design a little bit here, although obviously both the wings are now behind his shoulders, so it can't be, so go figure. I mean, the original is very simple, just kind of pops out like so, and then unfolds to make the same weapon. Very easy. And I'm sure some will be sticklers for this kind of stuff, but for my part, I don't mind it. I prefer the symmetry of having the two wings intact, so although the original, I think that's an exceptionally cool gimmick and like a bit of an all-timer, I do love it. I also appreciate the way that the new one's gone about it. Slightly less impressed with this though, because there's another paint chip in the pink on the sword, so I could really live without that. As for the other weapon on offer, this is of course the iconic Starsaber, which was a main plot point at one point in the cartoon, the classic Armada cartoon, and is traditionally 3 minicons all kind of smushed together, except here it's just a single molded accessory, so some people may be a little bit disappointed about that, but it is what it is. Besides, there's little arguing with the results in this case, because honestly he looks kinda awesome dual wielding those swords, so it may not have the play pattern of yesteryear, but yeah, it's still got something to it, I can't deny. And it's just another aspect that at the end of the day makes this thing a great accompaniment to the original. I never call them upgrades, right? Like, because that's just not how I view these new legacy toys or whatever. They're not upgrades to me, they're just new takes on the old designs. You know, I still love the originals, I wouldn't be without them, and in this case the original is an absolute all-timer. But it is great fun to see it with modern engineering, modern articulation, different accessories, and just a different spin as well. These two can coexist and they're both good in their own different ways. And you know, the same is true of the Cybertron Starscream versus that original version, which actually only picked up recently, and it's another banger. But still, you can see the two modern takes here next to one another, and they're both worthy updates. Again, not upgrades, updates. How's that? And then finally here you can see him with a couple of the other recent legacy Armada figures, Optimus Prime and Megatron, who I keep threatening to do a video on as well, because I've got a fair bit to say about that figure, but at least for today, you can see how these three look together. In conclusion then, I'm pretty happy with this thing overall, honestly. A couple of little nitpicks. I am disappointed about that droopy nose cone, and the paint chip on the face and the one on the sword are kind of irking me, but I guess I'll see if I can fix them, and even taking those quibbles into account, there's still a lot that I'm kind of enjoying here, so all things considered, it's a toot. As already mentioned, today's review is brought to you by TF Source. You will find a link to their site in the description below, and you can check them out for all your Transformers needs. I'd also be very grateful if you could leave me a like for today's effort, please. But otherwise, that's it from me. So have a great rest of your day, and TTFN.